Good afternoon, everybody, depending on where you are watching us from. Thank you for joining us and tuning in to our first Think Africa Week panel discussion titled The Power of Impact in African Countries. So for the next 40 minutes, our panelists will share with us about their impactful work, their contributions to the development of the people in African countries, the social and economic impact their work is making, challenges first, as well as the collaborations fostered. They will also give us some advice, some insights, some tips on how each of us can make an influence towards the Africa we want. So, about our panelists, you can find their bio on our website on thinkafrica.fi. But just briefly, we have Pierre Jallow, who is the co-founder and CEO of WeBridge, Birgit Nevala, Program Director at Finland Fin Partnership Program. We have Christopher Palmberg, heading the Development Markets Platform and Business Finland. Edem, who is the CEO and co-founder of Untitled Organics. Thank you all for gracing us with your presence. We are really looking forward to a wonderful discussion today. So I will quickly take my seat as well. And let us get the ball rolling. I will start off by asking our panel just general questions so that all of them can get an opportunity to share with us or to enlighten us briefly on their work and how their work is making an impact in African countries and among African people. They will also explain to us the areas that they are targeting or focusing on and share briefly with us what inspires their work, the projects they are undertaking, as well as the programs that they are involved in. So we can start from my side with Christopher.
Thank you, and happy to be here. I'm not a dancer, so I'm perhaps a bit more boring as a person on the stage. But yes, so my name is Christopher Palnberg, and I'm heading, as mentioned, the Developing Markets Platform, which is a partnership platform between Business Finland and the Ministry for Foreign Affairs. So what we are doing is we are continuing some of the collaboration that we have had in a previous program called Business with Impact. So my role for impacts actually go through businesses. So I work very much with companies, and at the core of this collaboration is kind of a joint funding model. So we have been funding a lot of projects by Finnish companies developing new solutions for needs in collaboration with many African countries, including also countries in Southeastern Asia. The idea being that we try to identify combinations of projects where we combine Finnish businesses with local impacts. So that's essentially what I do, and so far we have invested some 60 million euros totally in about 160 projects. So we have a lot of interesting projects ongoing in our portfolio, and some of those projects are continuing into this new work with the ministry, which is called the Developing Markets Platform. So there the idea is the same, but we work in slightly different ways. So I guess my role is more of a facilitator, and the impacts that I see comes to the companies. And of course, for me, this is a really interesting area of work because essentially what's fascinating is to try to combine different policy areas where you kind of look for growth for Finland. At the same time, you look for impacts in the developing countries through MFA. So it's kind of a win-win collaboration. And actually the work that we have been doing is rather unique internationally, because we have been able to combine these two policy mandates in a very concrete way through these funding models and through the project. So it's really interesting, and it's really interesting to learn more about new cultures and countries. So that's my story in brief.
Thank you so much, Christopher. Over to you, Birgit.
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to be here today with all of you. And Finn Partnership is a program of Finnish Foreign Ministry, and it is targeted to business projects. So Finn Partnership is totally part of ODA, Official Development Assistance Funding. And this is sometimes a little bit tricky question for companies, because they don't know so well how to get involved with ODA funding and what it requires to apply it, to control it, and also to report it. So this is also constant work. My background is in NGO work with educational institutions, basically in Mozambique, teacher training and vocational training. And this is also a very personal mission to me, to get companies involved in making great success also in development steps in Africa. There are some personal experiences that I actually had when planning a new project, which then was an aid project. And of course, there are still places also in Africa where aid projects are also needed. But when we were planning some new project and we were asking the people that were there in the village, some of them hardly could read, but they knew all this vocabulary around aid projects, like beneficiaries and stakeholders. So that was the time when I realized that maybe this is not the way to go anymore. These people need jobs, and the aid organizations don't usually have the skills how to run businesses, how to start businesses. And this is what is needed at this moment. So I started shifting myself into this, and I'm very privileged now that I'm in this position in Finn Partnership, where I can channel companies from Finland, making joint ventures, long-term projects, long-term business that creates jobs and good development in a sustainable way. And I personally rejoice of every success story, that there is a company born in African country where Finns and Africans are doing it together, and they are making investments and growing the local economy. Thank you for this, and thank you for having this event where we discuss about these things.
Thank you for the insights, Birgit. And Edem, what's your story?
Thank you so much for this moment. I really appreciate it. And it's so nice being on this panel with you all. My name is Edem Agbekey-Taylor, and I am the founder and the owner of Inkuto International Limited, simply Inkuto Organics. And what Inkuto Organics do, or the kind of impact that we put in Africa, is we try to source natural resources that are spiritually, economically sustainable. And we try to work with people that we know, or we try to impact directly to our homeland, because we have so much natural resources over there. We are into skin and hair care products, and what we do is, because we don't, or personally, I really don't believe in charity, because charity has never worked for our continent. So since charity doesn't work, I notice or realize that the people there or on the ground, or the women that are doing the work need work, as Bridget said. They need work, but they don't need aid, because aid does not help the people. So we work directly with these women, or we invest directly to the continent, whereby we work with Women Cooperative, and what we buy fairly from them, what's the price that they ask for their produce. So this is what we do, and we use their raw material to make natural skincare here in Finland, and we supply to chain stores and other places. So this is what we do in Finland, and the brand is called Inkuto, as you rightly said. So thank you for having us here, and we are glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing such a wonderful story. Over to you, Pierre.
Thanks. I think the question was the impact that we make in Africa, right? And I think I would say more the impact that Africa has made towards me. My story is a little bit kind of one-sided, because I was born and raised in Gambia, and I was very fortunate to have parents who could afford to send me over to the US to do my bachelor's. And out of nowhere, I kind of got a scholarship to play basketball, partly because I was tall, partly because I had skinny legs and I could run. Whatever it was, the genes worked. So I was fortunate, and I played basketball the 4 years. And when I graduated, I actually turned professional, and I played in about 8 countries around the world, and Finland was one of the stops. But it always dawned on me that I hardly played any basketball when I was in Gambia. I used to watch these other kids in my school, in my high school, play basketball. Way better than me, but never got an opportunity. So I imagine what they could have done if they actually played basketball, if they had the opportunity to go. Perhaps they would have been in the NBA, right? Since that day, since that realization, even while I was playing professional, I started some third sector organizations to help young people develop education through sports. And I started it with the idea that, hey, look, I'm going to change these kids' lives. I'm going to give them opportunities and all that. And every single year I go back, every single time I go back and have these camps that combined education and sports, these kids were blowing me out of my mind. They were blowing me away with their intelligence, with their, just wittiness, with their vision for life. And I think I gained more in those instances than these kids. And that has always fueled me in my work, in the projects that I've created, that have been in Europe, in Finland wider in Europe, but especially with my company, WeBridge, where we're trying to connect Nordic and Baltic businesses to the African markets, but vice versa. I completely agree with what Ambassador Boni was saying earlier on. Number one, there needs to be unity, but number two, there needs to be partnership. And that doesn't mean that only Finnish companies get out of here and then go to Africa to present their solutions. That also means that African companies can also have an opportunity to come in here with their solutions, with their awesomeness, right? And come in here, and right? So that's the intro for me.
Thank you all for the great insights. And also to our audience, allow me to emphasize that when it comes to the impact that we want in Africa, it's all a result of action and commitment. Without the action and without the commitment, it's hard for us to make this impact that we all want to make or to see. But as a follow-up question to perhaps Pierre and Edem in particular, I just want to understand, like in the African context, how is it when it comes to making the impact? How do you manage to make this impact while you are living in Finland?
That's a good question. Thank you. Brilliant question. Honestly, it's not easy. But then, as you know, we work as Africans. We believe in that culture, that community. When I first started in Nkuto was born through another woman, that is my daughter, who is now 14 years. When she was born, she had skin problem. So when that impact was impacted in me, I called my mother, and she organized people that we know. And these women, when we started working, it wasn't easy because they didn't understand. They were used to the charity that kind of, should I put it, negative impact. You know, impact is a word that it can be positive and it can be negative. And they had the negative impact of, you know, people coming, giving them something and picking everything away. So they were used to that kind of impact. So it wasn't easy, it was really challenging. But then as time goes on and I try to educate them that, look, I want to buy your produce. I want to buy your work. Just like I'm being empowered here in Finland. When I buy your products, I empower you, and you have the money to do whatever you want to do. We work with these widows and orphans. The reason why we work with them is when the money, or when they sell their raw material to us, they can use that money themselves to take care of the family. I also grew up from a family or a society whereby everybody understands polygamy is a natural thing for us. I grew up from a number of 20 siblings, and I was the only one who had the chance to be the first to be educated, to have high school and then university. And I graduated to be an engineer. I worked for Audi, VW, Nissan as automobile engineer for many years. And when I moved to Finland and this happened, I realized that in Finland, if you try to help yourself, the society help you. The only thing is, I hope I'm not going to put myself in trouble here. The system does not help you. But then I also learned that if you empower yourself, you can empower somebody. And if that person is empowered, that person in turn empowering somebody else's as well. In Africa, the women, there's a saying that when you educate a woman, you educate a whole village. And I'm using that skill, just like here, I don't believe in the social services. It's a good thing. I hope I don't put myself in trouble again. It's a good thing, but I feel that it's killing your skill, it's killing your brain power, and it's enslaving you in a way that you don't become you, because you know that everything is there for you. So you are not given the chance to do what you have to do. With that, I said that no, since the women there, they have the skill, they have the knowledge, then it's better I do the same thing with them. You know, so the family also help. I am here, they are there, but then that community thing, and the women cooperative that I work with, they have leaders. So I communicate through the leaders, and that's kind of, it boils down. So thank you. That's how I...
Thank you so much.
Edem definitely got herself into trouble. I think I understand what you're saying about the social services, But I think for me, that's one of the reasons why I live in Finland, not to benefit from the social services, but then because it's a country where I don't walk around and see homeless people. Anybody who wants medication, who wants treatment will get it, unlike many of the other countries, developed countries I've been or lived in. So I think it's that humanity that Finland represents that is hands above everything else. In terms of impact, I think it's of course not the easiest thing being in Finland and trying to make impact in your back in Africa. Of course, I travel quite a bit. I go 8 to 10 times a year, and I have very good connections, networks, very good consultants that are doing a fantastic job over there. I think one thing that needs to be said is how many diaspora are so smart and how many of them have gone back or continue to go back. And these are people who we actually need to work with, who we need to get opportunities for in these different consultancies so that we all can build the Africa we want.
Point of correction. So, like you said, sorry, it doesn't mean that I say the social services is completely, because when you are ill and you have but it's that point whereby I think the society or some encourage laziness, that it's easier for you to stay at home and get support than to force yourself to go to work. And that is the part that is killing the economy, I think so. That is what I meant by the negative part of that social service, but not...
Interesting issues emerging here.
Can I comment
She
this?
wants to give us her opinion as well, Birgit.
Yes, thank you. It is good that we have these kind of opinions. This means that we can discuss about these things. And now we have the Finland we wanted after the wars. We were so poor country. So this is the Finland we wanted. Now we need to look. Always there is something that we can fix. But it is for you guys to do the Africa you want. And this is the one skill that we have actually here just in Finland. I think we are the only European country who lifted a country from poverty into the happiest nation in 2-3 generations. So we have some special knowledge here, and it is okay to criticize always, because it's not healthy development if you cannot say your opinion. This is much valued also. Thank you.
Great insights as well. Christopher, you want to add something?
Yeah, just briefly, really interesting stories. And what came true to me was also the entrepreneurship that both of you, in a way, explained. That brings me kind of to an important point. I mean, talk about impact. It's always co-created. So I think what we can do with Birgit and others in terms of the work we are doing is really to connect people and connect smart entrepreneurial minds together and create various platforms. I refer to these projects, in a way they are also platforms for collaboration and linking research, entrepreneurs, etc. But maybe the key point is that you really need to think about impact as something co-created. And sometimes it's just about actually linking people, exchanging ideas, and you get a lot of good things coming out of that. So I think that's something that we need to work hard on, to create these platforms and fora. And that's what we try to do with the ministry as well in this developing markets platform. So trying to find these synergies and work both in Finland, what we can do as Business Finland, help companies and arrange various matchmaking connections and events, and then also in the countries to do the same and really link people. So sometimes that's the key issue, actually.
Thank you so much for all your contributions. Just moving on, I just want to emphasize that we have a question and answer session. in the last 10 minutes. So before we even get to that, there are those who are following us online, please, using our Facebook page, just type your question in the comment section. We'll manage to read these questions. So for the meantime, before we get to the question and answer session, I'll ask 2 more questions and we can hear more from our panelists. Our audience are more also interested in finding out what specific partnerships or projects that Christopher and Birgit are interested in promoting. Because by the end of this discussion, they want also to have direct information and to assess whether their projects, they fit into your bigger projects. So they need that valuable information. What sort of information are you ready to share with them? Who wants to go first?
Well, okay, thank you. So Finn Partnership, as I already mentioned, our funding part is not for exporting goods from Finland to African countries, but it can be used the other way around. So we are the only instrument that also gives support to importing projects. So if you want to import to Finland some food stuff, crafts, those we see many. And the happy news here is that the market is growing so that people are more interested in buying ethically, fairly produced goods in like furniture, different kind of decorations, gifts. We have many success stories already if you go to Finn Partnership website on importing. And then we take in all kinds of different projects that aim at long-term business, like joint ventures, subsidiaries. So something that creates a business and jobs in a sustainable way in African countries. So we take in all the sectors because Finland is not very big in this sense. We don't have so many companies here, so we cannot be too picky who we support or not. So if somebody wants to make some sort of company in African countries, who are we to tell that this is good or this is not good? Even though I studied African studies, I have masters in that from Helsinki University, I still could not tell which is a good idea and which is not. So we try to support all who have the aim to go in long term with Africans.
Thank you so much. Over to you, Christopher.
Thanks. Well, our role is comes a bit in that sense after Finn Partnership. So we are the right partner if you talk about new product development, new solution developments. And again, I want to stress the co-creation part. So what we have done, which I think is really interesting, is that we have pooled the funding we have at Business Finland for Finnish companies and for their new solutions development projects with then the development aid funding for local partners. So essentially, if we have, let's say, companies who are a bit further down the line, have a financially established position in Finland, and if they see an opportunity in another country, in a market, and they have identified partners there, they can approach us, and then we can kind of combine this funding so that we can fund both the Finnish part as well as include then the local partner through the Finnish company or research organization. Now I'm just talking about the funding part. So we have also a global network, and we try to help a lot also in terms of identifying those opportunities, trying to identify those partners, the buyers, etc. So it's not only about working from here. So we try to work also with the global network extensively and bring those opportunities and partners and that interface back to Finland. And here, of course, we have a lot of collaboration because Finn Partnership is also really good at matchmaking companies abroad. I just want to mention also some other work that we do. So now we are talking more about, let's say, Finnish companies engaging in new solutions for these markets, new business models. But then we do a lot of work with also with the UN, because the United Nations is a significant procurer of of solutions, and they in a way implement needs and have various projects going on in the target countries. So we have a lot of collaboration in Denmark actually with Nordic agencies as well, and we are developing a kind of a service pathway to those UN-related procurement opportunities, because the UN is a huge procurer and a big market per se. So that is quite interesting as well. So through that also we support companies, and what is of key here, apart from this co-creation idea that really trying to matchmake, is also that we try to help companies to develop and align what they do with the Sustainable Development Goals, because that's kind of essential in terms of really understanding the needs in a deeper sense, whether it's employment or climate change related aspects or infrastructures, logistics, whatever. And then also it's essential for these bigger markets provided by the United Nations, or even beyond that by impact investors and other global funders. So that's another part of the work. But maybe you should mention also the way we work.
Yes, I was going to also say about application workshops. So you don't need to remember everything we say, because every month there is an application workshop arranged by both of us. What have been mentioned also here several times is that we should do together. So we have taken this step. Christopher is under different ministry and we are under foreign ministry, and now this is one step that we really have come together to work on this. And application workshops, they are joined every month, and everybody is welcome in those. And then we do SDG boosters together, and also we are joined in many other activities. We have a common booth also today.
Okay, thank you so much. We are running out of time, but I will quickly ask you perhaps 1 minute each to give us a reflection on how the COVID pandemic is really affecting your work, and what sort of changes that you see in your operations in relation to the COVID-19 pandemic. And while still on that, our entrepreneurs, can you also reflect on how you are confronting the risks that are associated with the COVID-19 pandemic that might help our audiences also out there to align their business or their entrepreneurship as well? So just 1 minute each.
Man, that's tough, 1 minute. I have a couple of companies that I work with. 4 Ferries that is concentrated on mathematics education. I represent them in Africa. And Africa we've been concentrating on accessibility for a very long time, which means just building schools and building schools and building schools, not concerned about the quality itself. This project actually helps, this company actually helps each of these schools, especially the teachers who are usually not as qualified as they can be. For example, in Finland, where you have teachers who have double master's degrees. So this project actually helps both the students and the teachers to learn, regardless of whether they're in a solid building or not. And I think that's important. Something else, Block Solutions that I represent, for example, in West African region, there are 50 million housing deficit for Africa. It's insane, and all of us who were born and raised in Africa understand what owning your home means. But most of the people who have government jobs or regular jobs can't afford a home, can't afford that dignity. And I think there needs to be better ways, especially environmentally friendly ways, to provide these opportunities. So in terms of COVID, it has been difficult doing it online, but people have been adapting, and I think that has improved quite a bit.
Thank you so much, Edem.
The impact of COVID, how COVID impacted or affected Incuto, actually anybody in sales or marketing, should I use retail, understands that it's affected all of us. And because it's the whole world, it was different. What Inkuto did was, when the first wave came, actually, Inkuto donated some soaps and personal care to most of our hospitals, or 3 big hospitals. And we also, but when it comes to the women back there, I think that our government did take drastic measures, so it didn't really affect them so much, because we have to import from them. But for us here, it did affect us because we were not selling. But on the other hand, this COVID has really given me the chance to breathe and have had very good ideas that I'm coming up with, new lines and new business ideas. So it's in a way, with every negative thing, every disaster, there is something good that comes out of it. So I got something good out of that. So yeah.
That's really wonderful. Looking on the positive side, not looking at amplifying the problem, but focusing on the solutions. Thank you so much for that. And Birgit, just
Thank
1
you.
minute.
Yes, we see also COVID's positive sides, a very concrete way. The digital doors have really opened. You can now get just about any company in any African country into a digital meeting with a Finnish company. Last year this was not still possible, and now it's like we do it every day. Please go also to our matchmaking service, where you can almost 500 companies from Africa looking for partners in Finland. And we arrange the digital meetings between the Finnish company and our matchmaking company. And the competition on digital time of people, it has also increased a lot. So it is hard to get the attention, but that is a good side when you are a financer. They always find some time for you, and that way we can make the connections. So I encourage everybody to use that, because the digital doors are open now.
Wonderful advice there. And Christopher?
Yeah, well, of course, for us at Business Finland, it has implied, of course, that we work from distance, and we have a lot of precautionary measures to make sure that people are safe and so on. But we are in full service, so we are in full functioning, and we work extremely intensively. Actually, we have been given quite a big responsibility to help companies who are in problems due to the COVID, as you may have read in the media. So we have actually, I think these last 6 months this year has been extremely busy in a very positive way, because we have hopefully been able to help a lot of companies with the extra funding we have been receiving from the government, and that's kept us in that sense in a positive way busy. But of course our concern is with the companies, that how are they surviving, how are they able to find new markets, find new buyers and partners and so on. So that's of course a big challenge. But I would say also on the upside, as Birgit was mentioning, that it's been actually fascinating to sit at home, working, having the possibility to have the whole world as a kind of a playing field, and having become acquainted with a lot of people digitally. So that's kind of I would say the good thing. And we have also in a way been forced to develop new solutions, new service models, and also in collaboration with FinPartnership and others. So in that sense, the accessibility to perhaps partners is in that sense lower than it has ever been. So that's a good thing. But we'll see. One interesting thing is also that many countries throughout Africa have actually reacted extremely swiftly, and the short-term impacts haven't perhaps been so so bad as many feared. But again, we don't know the longer term consequences, what it means for people's livelihoods and so on. So that's for the future to decide. But I would say in some ways also good things have come out of this, and we are in a way also getting back to some of the fundamental questions of sustainability and what we should do together to address certain big challenges. So I think some good things as well, and still we hope let's hope it ends soon.
Thank you so much, our panelists, for such an exciting and informative session. At this moment, I'll welcome questions from our audience. We need to engage more with our audience. They have got burning questions that they need answers from you guys. So for the next few minutes, you're on the spotlight. So do we have a microphone for the questions, please? All right, I'll have the first question from the ambassador. Good position sitting in front, so you get to ask the question first.
I don't know whether it's a question, but I would like just to maybe comment. When it comes to development assistance, it will be not right to say it's not, don't give development assistance. It's not right, but the emphasis must not be that the developing countries must depend on development assistance. It's like a person having a house close to the river or a sea. He doesn't have instrument to fish. So every day you come and drop fish there. But if you don't come a day or two, this person will starve. And the fish is in the river. The best way is to teach him, give him instrument to fish. Then whether you come or not, he will be able to eat. That's the idea. Mentality of Africans to say beg Europe. Even you beg from countries that are even poorer than your own country. Just because you know they have a budget there. As I said, I don't feel comfortable because I sit in meetings sometimes. You find a minister even want to be sponsored to come here. What is your budget doing? Why can't you budget have plan? If you are coming to negotiate with your partner here and he is sponsoring you, are you not already disadvantaged? Are you going to say anything as equal? You are demanding to be equal, sovereign and so on, but you still want to live as a beggar. This mentality of African must change. And also Europeans, also those who have money and help assistance, they shouldn't do this for fun. That you come there just to take photos, dirty children, we are giving them sweet and biscuit, and you go away. You must assist in order to be able to develop. That's the idea. Not to take a photo and say, yeah, we were in there distributing this and that, and you take a lot of things out of that country. I'm not saying there are no honest people. There are. But I'm just saying what is happening in Africa. Some of this developing assistance is politics. It's used to control you. And that's why most countries who are dependent, even at the international level, you can't even take a decision because you are told what to go and say, what to go and do in this big meeting. Because the men who contribute to your budget every year, he will tell you, no, don't take the decision of this group, but go this way. That means you have lost your sovereignty. Africa must wake up. Our kids obviously are not going to tolerate that. They will not accept what we do now because it's wrong. So development assistance, yes, because there are floods, there are droughts, there are refugees, they need food. But it should not be a way that Africa every time, and we must encourage it to work, as she said. She needs to work to know the value and to work hard for your bread. not just to be dishing. Even if it's a person there sitting even here, I see some of them sitting there. I give to the honest person, because one person was having something for money, but he said, I want to go and drink beer. He's very honest, because he doesn't want anything else, he wants just a beer. So you give him to go and buy a beer. But even if you are just putting a €1 or 1.50 cents every day, there will be a day you ask, why can't you go even clean up something here instead of just begging, sitting down? There is that syndrome that if you are used to be begging, you can beg forever. That must not be encouraged. So we must empower people, not just make them, continuously beggars. That's my opinion. I don't know.
Thank you. That was the ambassador of Namibia to Finland, giving his reflections on the issue of aid. He is encouraging us to take part, to empower ourselves, to finance ourselves. I will ask our panelists if there is anyone who wants to respond or to give a few comments towards the ambassador's speech.
I'll go very quickly on that. I wholeheartedly agree. It has not worked. We have seen that over the past how many ever years. What works, especially the reason why it hasn't been working, a lot of the work we're doing, we're focusing it on government, and many of these governments are corrupt. There's a lot of money getting out of the country without these young people or regular people benefiting from them. What needs to happen is business-to-business transactions, where we have companies from good-hearted nations like Finland going to work with companies from good-hearted nations like Gambia. Yes, I'm selling my country. So that they can work together. And this needs to happen without this government involvement at a deep level.
Thank you so much. To quickly respond?
What I'll add to this is, I'll ask the Finn Partnership and Business Finland that in case you are going to Africa to impact, there are a lot of Africans here that comes from that same country that I think you could utilize their skill. Finland has educated all these. We are all educated here. And Finland can take one African person and say, hey, we are going to your country. And that person can go, and that person might understand the language on the ground. But most of the time, you go there and you use Finns who don't understand the language, who don't understand the culture, who just start a business and they're, okay, let's go. I have applied many times and I've been turned down, but it's okay. It's okay because, like I said, I believe in myself. I believe in what I'm doing. And the people who believes in what I'm doing buys the product. So I grow like that. But then if things are cut like that, then it's also some way, somehow affect the economy. And for me as a person and as a company, even though I'm imparting in Africa, I also care about the economy in Finland because this is where we live. If I get sick, I don't go to African hospital. I go to Finnish hospital, and we contribute here. So this is what I want to add to that. You use the local people who are already living here, and the accountability, it's so, 99.9% when you use those people.
Thank you so much. You want to just chip in?
A quick
Yes,
comment.
sure.
Yes, I would encourage also more Finnish companies to work with diaspora people. In Finn Partnership, we have, in connection with us, 30 people. Many of them are diaspora, and some are living in their original home countries. And those are called company spotters. That I don't know, maybe this is the only initiative really that exists in this area still, but I encourage others to do this too. And I mentioned these digital meetings. Actually, spotters are there with those local companies to get them in the meeting and preparing them for the meeting usually. And this is a very, very good way to work.
Thank you so much all for your contributions. The emphasis is for Finnish companies to work with the Africans in Finland. That should be the starting point too. I will take the next question from the ambassador also. He is ready.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. First of all, I have to thank the organizers, Mrs. Mariam, and all the stakeholders of this very important event, to which I participate for the second year. I think that the story of Mr. Pierre Jallow is very much inspiring, and it's also a case study when we talk about migration, and that's why this is my issue. I want to switch to migration. My question is, in any strategy or partnerships, the migrants play a very important, and this is a role. But we see many of the people present here today are a pure product of migration. But the issue is that there is a lack of fairness in migration. Migration selective, what we call selective migration, has the negative impact. If you're speaking all about positive impact, it has a negative impact on African countries, what we call brain draining issue. It's for the question for me, for our partners from Finland, is how this kind of issues are dealt with in times where there is a lot of populism, where we speak about migration, all the impact side of migration, but we forget sometimes that there is the input of migrants or diaspora on their countries of origin and the countries where they live. So what is the reflection maybe for the future for our partners on the matter, and how this issue, which is in other areas of the world, it is politically said that we need a selected migration, which has, unfortunately, a very bad impact on our African countries. And yeah, thank you very much. This is the question.
Thank you, Ambassador. Before our panel respond, I will take one or two last questions, and they just wrap up and give us a summary and give us advice as well on the way forward. So, who wants to ask a question? All right, I will take one gentleman over there and one lady over there.
Sorry, you want to go first? Do you have a mic? Okay, I'll just go first. I have a question. Sorry, yeah. My name is Yusuf, and I have a question that might be more applicable to some of you. But given the situation in Africa, the demographics there is kind of like changing compared to a lot of Western countries, Asian countries. If we look at Africa as a continent, we can see that the youth has a majority of the population, right? Where in Asian and Western countries, the population is aging. And this provides an opportunity in Africa. And we've seen in the past few years that the digital infrastructure in Africa has been growing. We can see that, for example, in countries like Nigeria and Kenya that are home to ICT, information, communication, what was it? Sorry, yeah. Anyway, there's been basically, because we can see that for example, in 2050, I think one in fourth person is African, and then the countries in Africa are one of the fastest growing. And if we provide, and basically this provides an opportunity, because we live in the a era of technology. And if millions of people, and specifically youth in Africa, are provided more technology that, you know, kind of like births a lot more creativity in Africa. And given these circumstances and opportunities in Africa, how do you guys approach to these opportunities that, you know, the youth demographics in Africa are growing a lot faster than any other region in the world, and the growing technological infrastructure in Africa. So how do you kind of approach this in terms of your operations? Like I said, this is, I guess, more applicable to some of you.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, sure.
Sorry to interrupt you. I think the question is really clear. We are running out of time, so perhaps you can just briefly ask the question so that they can respond 30 minutes each, so that we can quickly wrap up and give way for the next program. 30 seconds, sorry.
You. I want to ask a very quick question, and I want a comment from you. I've always described Africa personally as studying in Finland, and well, I was privileged to address the University of La Perenta University of Technology as a student there, and I described Africa as a crippled man on a wheelchair. What is your comment?
Once our panelists. Okay, he's saying that Africa is described as a crippled man in a wheelchair. So what's your response?
I guess
Can you ask the question again? I didn't get it.
he described Africa as a crippled man on a wheelchair. How would you describe it? So
Thank you.
I think we definitely understand that point, and I agree with what you're talking about. I don't necessarily agree with your analogy, because then you're saying that anybody who is crippled and on a wheelchair cannot be successful, which is completely false, right? So I'm just saying the analogy, right? The part, but I agree with what you mean by it, and I would my description of Africa would be more of hope, more of a place where these young people that we have will stand up, and because we know they are super smart. I have experienced it myself. I continue to experience it. We know that if given the opportunities, that they can actually produce. So I choose to see Africa as the potential that it will become in the next 5 or 10 years.
Thank you, Pierre.
We do understand your frustration, but the power is in your hands. You can make a change as well. And the people who are giving aid, especially maybe those, there has been a system that they are following because of what has happened in centuries ago. We were giving, and you know, I always say that charity wounds the heart of the receiver. If they give and you don't take, they wouldn't take your power away from you. So if they keep giving and you keep saying, no, thank you, I want us to negotiate. Africa, my Africa, is not poor. My Africa is not crippled. My Africa is rich in all and it's endowed. So please, let's unite. I always say also that, as beautiful as we are seated here, how do we empower each other? You see your fellow African doing something. Do you push the person or do you bring the person down? Do you empower yourself to say that, hey, I have this, I can do this, and my brother, my sister can also do that. So we shouldn't blame the aid givers because they are also there for a reason.
Yeah.
So stop taking and they will stop giving. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your contribution. This is an exciting discussion. There are so many views when it comes to the issue of aid. And the most important thing that as Africans we don't want to find ourselves doing is propelling the 21st scramble for Africa. That's one thing that we need to guard, and that's one thing that we need to have open discussions. We need to understand how we can engage when it comes to the issues of mutual benefits and going on and so forth and so on. But Christopher would want to give us a few words. We have 5 minutes.
Yeah, okay, just briefly, there's a lot of ideas in the air here, but I mean, just to make clear that we are not providing aid. So what we are providing is we are facilitating business co-creation, business collaborations, and the whole reason for why we are engaged in this whole area and working with the ministry is exactly to enable this co-creation, and because we realize that people have a wrongful perception of Africa, and there is a lot of dynamism, there's a lot of youth, a lot of disruptive innovation challenging our ways of thinking back here. So I completely in my mind oppose any traditional views on what's happening in these countries. So really that's the whole reason for why we are doing this work, because we see that things are changing and we need to connect business, entrepreneurs, and whatever we can do to fund or in other ways matchmake or help, then that's what we do. And regarding the discussion about diaspora and immigration, I mean, to me it's absolutely obvious that Finland needs influx of new people, new cultures. It's essential for our longer term, well-being and society. And I would also, as my colleague Birgit here, really strongly encourage companies to kind of employ and take on board diaspora, because it's not about, let's say, theoretical physics or engineering skills only. And it's even more importantly, just simply about having people there who understand the cultures, have connections, and can kind of get things off the ground. And I think there are really good examples of these dynamics playing out. For example, related to Namibia, where I've been a few times, and I've been surprised. People there speak Finnish actually, and you have Pekkas and Erkis working there, even in the in the high-level government. So that's a good example of a country where Finland and Namibia really have been developing rather interesting partnerships. I think we have in the room also some people who have been doing that throughout our projects. Vietnam is another example where we have this kind of positive dynamics. So I also see it as a huge strength, and I really think that companies should be more ready to utilize these skills in Finland. And I just want to mention that we have a kind of a funding activation scheme called Talent Boost, which is also about trying to help companies employ, even through kind of funding vouchers, people, diaspora people from abroad. So you could have a look at that as well on our web pages. So thank you.
Thank you, Christopher. And please allow me to wrap up this discussion.
One final word
Okay.
also from us. So just migration and young people, I personally think that wealth is in people. So think about 50s Finland. Babies were booming. We had enough money to have school in every village. There were post office everywhere. And now we don't have money for that anymore. What happened? And we are getting older, so we need people here. The wealth is in the people, and we should see that in Africa as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Allow me to wrap up our discussion and emphasize that this was a provoking discussion. There is a lot of things that we can discuss during the break. Please, our panelists, they will be mingling amongst you. Feel free to engage with them. If you need any clarification, this will definitely benefit you as long as you are here. But for those who are following us online, please engage with our panelists. You will find their information on the Think Africa page. So on behalf of Think Africa, thank you for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your programs, and thank you, the team.